Well, it turns out that Sophia is Katerina's childhood friend from another life. Now, I think the last week's episode was kind of obvious. Like, it was definitely pointing us towards the direction of, Sophia being Katerina's friend. But this episode, if you didn't catch that, it just straight up gave it to you. It's like, we had a whole dream sequence with Sophia and her pretty much reliving, a part of her life from the past and all that when she met, Katerina in the other world, and then how they got, together as friends, etc., and they played, video games, visual novels and stuff, and then the death of Katerina before she was reincarnated into this world. It straight up gave it to you. It straight up was like, okay, yes, Sophia is definitely the reincarnation of Katerina's childhood friend. I mean, it was kind of apparent. I mean, when you look at the appearance of her, and when you saw Sophia, you're like, they just look too similar. The way they interact with each other as besties, it all links together, and it makes sense. But now, this brings up another question I think that people need to start asking themselves is, does it stop here? What I mean is Sophia the only one that has been reincarnated from Katerina's previous life? Could there potentially be more people? Could there potentially be maybe, let's say, Katerina's parents reincarnated into this world? Could it potentially be more of Katerina's friends reincarnated into this life? Or even enemies? Think about it. I mean, when you come to the conclusion of what happened to Katerina, how she was in a traffic accident, etc., it's a very cloudy situation. We don't really have the full extent of everything, and most likely Katerina's memory of that event might not be fully there. It might be a little bit foggy, because right before, seconds before death, I highly doubt you have a full conclusive memory of everything that happened, because things just happen, so quickly, you don't fully comprehend it. And it does make me wonder if, maybe that traffic accident that happened with, Katerina, if it actually was intentional or not. It's a question that came into my head while watching this episode, because it would make sense now maybe the main enemy, the antagonist of the story, might be someone from a previous life instead of someone that just is in this world. Which, let's talk about all of that. So besides Katerina being able to meet her childhood friend again, which I'll get back to in a second, we have a shadowy figure that appears within this episode. Not once, but multiple times, like 3 to 4 or 5 times throughout this episode. So, if you didn't catch it, it pretty much says that there is something very dark and mysterious happening within this episode. And it's clear that there was a figure that was watching over Katerina and Sophia when they were in that pit about to fall. Some gust of wind, tornado, appeared and saved them. And it's obviously not Sophia's brother, because he appeared in the group and someone's just deep down below. The only one that I could assume it could be would be the student council president, because of how he's potentially the hidden route. That is my assumption. I could be completely wrong. But there is one thing I do know, or I'm pretty much 99% certain on, is the fact that the gust of wind that appeared in this episode to save Sophia and also to save, Katerina was completely different from that black, shadowy figure that we saw constantly appearing behind Katerina. I highly doubt they're the same thing. I think it's two separate individuals, and I feel like, that's going to be a plot point that pops up. Maybe, it's going to be where Katerina thinks that shadowy figure or whatever might be the student council president, but in reality it isn't, or whatever, or someone that, that helped them might think that shadowy figure is someone that helped them, but isn't. You get my point. But there is one thing very clear, and that is Maria was able to see it. Out of everyone that was there in that group, and there was a lot of people there, only Maria saw it besides Katerina. So, obviously, there is definitely a link going on between these two characters, which makes perfect sense, because technically, Maria is supposed to be the protagonist of the story, but, Katerina kind of, stole that from her. So, it makes sense, though, why Maria would probably see something very different that the others can't, because she's, like I said, the protagonist. But it makes me wonder, and I was thinking about this while watching this episode, and I really don't think the series will go down this route, what I'm about to mention, but it would be interesting if it's the case. And it's just, I'm spitballing. I'm trying to just throw it on out there of how interesting it would be if this does happen. It made me wonder, what if that shadowy figure is the original Katerina? Think about it. just take a moment to really think about it. I mean, technically, yes, our character, Katarina, got resurrected. She was reborn in this world, but the personality of Katarina technically was there before she got that bump on her head. So it does make you wonder what happened to the original Katarina, because all the characters are here. All the individual characters, etc., are within this world. Even though our main character has stolen the spotlight from countless characters to, ruin their routes, it still followed the order of events of the story. And it does make me wonder, did the original Katarina, is she still around in some shape or form? Is that what the shadowy figure is? Or is it something else, just like, this world's Katarina, or someone that comes from Katarina's previous life? For instance, maybe an enemy, etc., that might have caused the traffic accident or whatever. It does make you wonder, because there is something that does happen with this episode, which isn't necessarily explained, and it does have me curious as well. You see a bunch of the girls sitting behind the scenes just looking at, Katarina's group, and it's like, oh, she can't really use magic, etc. Getting very jealous, obviously, and it's the group of girls that Katarina's kind of scared off a few times. But it does make me wonder if that group that was being very malicious and, showing eyes of jealousy and anger within this episode wasn't necessarily looking at Maria, wasn't necessarily looking at Sophia or any of them, but looking at Katarina. That does have me very curious, because when you think about the structure of this episode, you see a couple of scenes to where Katarina feels very useless. She feels like she can't actually help out, the people around her. She doesn't really know how to use magic properly, so she feels inferior. She feels weak. She feels like she can't do anything, and she tries to do something, but obviously it kind of fails. She's more of a klutz that gets into danger than anything. It does make me wonder if those group of characters that we saw being very jealous weren't necessarily eyeing Maria or anything, but they were eyeing Katarina because they figured out that she doesn't really know how to use magic. Now that is something I'm wondering about, if that's where the story's going to go, and if it's going to tie in with this shadowy figure or whatever. But despite all of that, I will say that this episode does give a lot of questions, and it definitely ramps up the story a lot more. I'm even more invested in, my next life as a villainess now after this episode, because now we have the whole reincarnation thing with Sophia, and like I said, I wonder if that is the only person, and, what is the shadowy figure? Who is the person that saved her? There's so many things. But if there is one thing I do want to talk about, though, it is the mushrooms that Katarina was grabbing. Can we just take a moment to talk about how Katarina was about to eat something that looks like straight out of Mario? Those mushrooms straight up looked like the death mushrooms from Mario. And I'm just like, Katarina, I know you're a glutton. I know you like to eat, but you're not going to tell me you're that dumb. You're that dumb when it comes to food. Anyone with a brain cell would be able to recognize when a mushroom is freaking purple, you shouldn't eat it. It's just common knowledge. That's why there is just crazy colors in, nature. Usually when you encounter something that is blue, purple, bright red, etc., it usually represents that it might be poisonous, toxic, dangerous, etc., and there obviously is some creatures and plants, etc., that use these colors to act like they're bad, but they're really not. But most of the time, you just want to avoid it because it's incredibly dangerous, and since this is a fantasy world, I highly doubt the food is the exact same, and, let's say the plants and all that are the exact same from the original world she was in. So seeing her grab those purple mushrooms like that, like I said, they're straight up out of Mario, I'm just like, really? You're gonna try to eat something that's probably straight up deadly? I'm just like, I wonder what would have happened. I was honestly on the edge of my seat wondering if Katarina was going to try it and something bad was going to happen. And I mean, she's trying to avoid all these doom flags, trying to not die, etc., but she straight up grabs something like that and thinks it's a-okay. She doesn't even have a council meeting about it. I'm just like, really? You have a council meeting about a lizard, and you have a council meeting about falling down this pit, but you don't have a council meeting about, oh, is it okay if I eat these purple mushrooms? Just like, you get my point here. But okay, jokes aside, though, I do think, though, this episode is really good. I am very happy to see, though, that Sophia is the childhood friend, because this does allow Katarina to talk with someone else about her previous life and allow her to pretty much like communicate about things that she normally can't communicate about, but also talk about the world as, you know, how it was a game and how things have kind of been changed. It does make you wonder, though, how she feels about it, how, you know, the Sophia character feels about, you know, her friend being Katarina, you know, and kind of stealing all the routes. Like, it does make you wonder where that's going to go and the development of the story. I feel like there's going to be a long conversation about this in the next episode. But that's pretty much about it, though. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. Because for some reason, even if you click the subscribe button, you don't always get notified. So if you want to get notified, hit that bell icon. And with that, Chibi out.